is your host, Cain Stevens. All right, everybody. Welcome back to the Cain Stevens Super Show. I'm your super host, once again, Cain Stevens, and this is my super show. I've got another great guest on my hands. I'm pretty excited to talk to her about all sorts of things. She's willing and ready to talk about the paranormal with me and so much more. I have an author and doctor. We have Rita Louise, everybody. I'm going to give her a round of applause here, and we're going to bring her on the show. How are you?
I'm doing great. Thanks for having me on.
Absolutely. So what part of the world are you residing in currently?
I am in Far East Texas.
Far East Texas. And the old person thing to ask would be, well, how's the weather over there right now?
It was like monsooning here this morning, and I went and got out of my car and was trying to go into this house that I just bought, and it was like a river.
Yeah. So
And it's like,
are you guys fearful of like a massive freeze like last year? Are you guys kind of afraid of that happening?
hey, this is just not working. All right, hang on.
That's all right. I can edit this part out too.
This has been very cooperative. So, like right now,
Don't
go stop it. Stop it.
So
Um,
are you guys terrified of a big freeze that's going to happen? I know that when you guys
Well,
got
we just had one last week,
yeah,
and basically the city shut down. So where are you located?
I'm located in Lincoln, Nebraska, so smack that.
Okay. So they don't really know in Texas about like salting the road or putting like where I'm at, especially putting sand down so that you can drive. And I'll give you this example. So when we had that snowpocalypse a couple of years ago, where we actually had like a bunch of snow and then the power went out. So my property backs up to a main road that goes through town.
Mhm.
It was literally white snow on that ground for 4 days.
Wow.
4 days. I'm from New York, so it's
The forces aren't with us today, are they?
no. This is just so weird.
Well, it was crazy how that all went down. Like you guys, I'm assuming that you guys have like this standard insulation and all that stuff. Are your houses and everything insulated for cold weather, or do they even do any of that?
It depends on the house. Older homes, not so much.
Yeah.
Newer homes are all insulated.
Yeah.
So
Well, let's hope that that doesn't happen again, especially with the power. I mean, people died. It was an awful time to be in Texas, I'm sure, at that time. But I wish I was kind of where you guys are. I hate the weather that I live in. I should be somewhere tropical, but that's just not on the cards for me. So here I am.
in Nebraska.
in
Well,
Nebra-
thankfully, I learned that I live on the Louisiana power grid, so I never lost power.
Perfect.
So it's like, sweet, there's something good for living here.
So are you close to gator country and all that too then? Are there gators where you
So I live about 30 miles west of Shreveport, Louisiana. So, there's some, but not like you hear in Florida or, down on the Gulf.
Yeah.
I'm far enough away.
When I was a kid, my grandparents used to take my brother and I down there. We would head to Galveston, but we would kind of go through all these different areas. And I remember we would see gators like by the roadside, and there'd be idiots that would pull over, including us, and they would have I remember there was a guy with chicken, and he had it on a string, and he was throwing it out there, bringing the gators to him. And I remember as a kid thinking this has to be one of the dumbest things I've ever seen. And then of course my idiot brother, when they left, the guy leaves the chicken in the string, and my brother wraps it around his wrist and starts throwing it out there. So can you imagine if the gator had gotten a hold of this thing and my brother has it wrapped around his wrist? My brother would have been lunch. So I always think about
No,
that.
but they might have been trying to catch him because, they do sell alligator food,
Yeah. That
you
could
know?
have been. I was shocked that my grandparents let us do it, but it was different times back then. We also sat on my dad's lap while he, drank a six pack and smoked and a different
And
times.
rode in the back of the truck down the freeway.
Right, exactly. So let's talk a little bit more about I was looking over some of your bio and of course it piqued my interest when it talked about entities and stuff like that and attachments. Would you be willing to talk about like and by entities in that I mean ghosts. This used to be the Paranormal Super Show. I do paranormal investigation, so I'm extremely tapped into this. But I want to talk about how does an entity attach to somebody and why? Do you have any answers to that?
Mhm. And this sounds so terrible, but usually we invite them in. The most common place where you find an entity attachment is in little children
Mhm.
because they are brought up in a toxic environment and they want somebody to save them. And so they invite the entity in. More in adults, where I've seen it come up is people do automatic writing. I'm going to say Ouija board, but Ouija boards have such a bad reputation, but it could, depending on how you decide to use it. Um, and people that are doing channeling, they're inviting spirit to come around them and to communicate with them.
Mhm.
And when they come, especially as an adult, they start off all loving and kind and giving you all kinds of really great answers and information. And then over time, the message starts to change and it starts to become more negative and more controlling in nature. But by that time, it's like you've already invested in it and you don't understand. And now you have an entity attached to you.
Right. Well, it's interesting to me because like different investigations I've been on, especially recently, there's been some weird responses that have come through. And a lot of people don't necessarily even believe in like the spirit boxes but I've built some spirit boxes out of different guitar pedals, all sorts of different things. And there have been some weird responses. And so in particular, like the SB7, for example, are you aware of what that is?
Not
Okay.
I go in as the group psychic, and so everybody else does the equipment and I just like show up and like
Exactly.
talk.
And I can't wait to dive into it more with you on that. But the SB7 is basically it's like just like a regular like a little transistor radio, right? And it sweeps back and forth and you get weird responses. And sometimes it's like okay, every time it cycles through,
Right.
it's got to be the radio station. But then there's other times where things we take the antenna out of ours so that we eliminate that good or bad and we still get responses coming through. So when they come through
Mhm.
that and the noise gate guitar pedal and all that stuff, that's probably pretty substantial. Something's really trying to communicate, I believe. And so I don't understand like why they come through with what they say. Sometimes it's complete nonsense. How hard do you think it is for the entity to communicate with us?
That's a great question. I have to think about that for a second. I think, all right, so this is just, my offhand, off cuff response. I think some entities, okay, so all right, so when I use the term entity, I'm talking about an entity attachment, where they're attached to you and they're trying to control you versus a ghost or a dead person. I joke around about that a lot. Um, but I think some have more of a presence in the world, so it's easier for them to come through. There's more emotional energy or whatever that they bring to the table. And I've seen this happen also where there are high EMFs, so they kind of latch onto that and come through more. And then there's the whole part of do they want to talk to you or not? If they don't want to talk to you, then they're not.
Exactly. And so you're a they bring you in as a psychic for some of this stuff. Have you been on a lot of investigations and how does that usually go for you? Have you always had this gift?
So I didn't realize I had this gift till I was in my 30s, but it was always there and always very strong. Um, and they always bring me in as the psychic. I never do any of the other stuff
Yeah.
ever, ever, ever. Um, and it's interesting, I was really involved with a group, and at this time, it's been quite a while, and I've just recently kind of hooked up with a new group that's not real active, but that's okay with me. And there are a lot of investigations that I've gone on where there is either nothing happening, that there is like stagnant energy, like you're going, it's like, wow, there's this energy and it kind of revolves around this closet. And that's where their complaint is. Cause I never know,
Hmm.
when I go in, I just am like, I'm going to go walk over there. You guys have your conversation and I'll like let you know what I see. And I'm like, okay, there's like weird stuff going on in this closet. And then I find out that that's where the issue is. And you open up the closet and you're surprised like stuff doesn't fall on you
Yeah.
because it's like their anxiety closet. Um, a lot of investigations have just residual energy, where there is the impression of a spirit, but it's not an active haunting, and so the smallest percentage are investigations where there actually is a physical entity there.
Yeah.
And, so
Would you say without a doubt, this is a question I want to start asking people, especially when I talk to a psychic, you tap into it. Would you say without a doubt, 100% that ghosts are real?
I would say without a doubt ghosts are real.
Okay. That's fair.
I mean, if I can go to a place, okay, so I'm going to give an example. So there's a place in Jefferson, Texas called the Peak. Okay, it just totally left the Grove. It's called the Grove.
Mhm.
And so we were being filmed for this movie. And so again, all I know is we're going to some place, and obviously there must be some kind of activity or complaint because we're going. And we're pulling up to the house, and I look on the porch, and there's this old guy with like a white beard, and I could see like three-quarters of his body standing outside the front door. And so I'm getting out of the car, and I'm waving to this invisible guy on the front porch, only to find out that the guy had been the owner. Because I started talking about it, and they're like, "Oh yeah, that's so and so," and I see pictures, and it's like, "Oh yeah, that was that guy."
Wow.
So how would I, where would that come from?
Right. Because they don't give you prior knowledge of any of this stuff, right? I mean, that would be the best way to deal with a psychic if you're going to bring him into an investigation, correct?
That's how I prefer it.
Mhm.
There are some that want to be part of the pre-meeting, and I'm like, I'm going to go outside, or they'll start talking, and I'll be like, la 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 la,
Yeah.
because I don't want to know. Because it contaminates me, and two, they don't know if I'm giving them an honest read, because if I know what's going on, then I could just sit there and go, "Oh yeah, blah 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 blah," which is crap. I mean, and I've known psychics who have done that, and then they just kind of regurgitate stuff they found online, stuff they've heard from other people, and I'm like, "Okay, so you're saying that, but I'm not getting that at all."
Yeah. Well, can you go to any location anywhere and pick up on some sort of energy? I mean, is that I like to ask the psychics and the mediums I talk to, like, I guess my question to you is this: if you can tap into it like that, can you shut it off, or is it always coming to you in waves?
So explain it this way. I put my psychic glasses on. I think people that have been very sensitive their whole life learn to turn it off.
Mhm.
And so for me, it's kind of like I have to kind of turn it on.
Yeah.
Uh, but not every location that you go to has spirits in it. So
Right.
there's a house which I feared was going to be haunted as hell. That there was a double murder in the house. a double murder, and it's down the street, and it's on the historic walk through town, and it's like, but it's known because there was a double murder in the 80s.
Yeah.
And, and there's nothing in that house, nothing. And you would think,
You would think, oh, I mean, most people would think any place of that sort of where that sort of attention comes to it because something tragic happened that it would be haunted. But that's interesting. I mean, that just, I like hearing that type of story because I think everyone gets lost in the everywhere's haunted, everything's haunted, but it's really not. I mean, you're telling me that too. Just because you're 100% positive there are ghosts, that doesn't mean that ghosts are everywhere. But why do you think they stay? I mean, is it just their energy or do they stick around for a particular reason?
so there are a number of different things. Sometimes it's just their energy that's just very residual. Sometimes, and this is where I think people get very confused. So my belief is that when we die, we can go through the life review process or whatever happens, and just said very simply, we can go to heaven. We can make that transition into the higher vibrational field,
Mhm.
and we're free. But it doesn't mean that you're locked up in heaven and you can't come visit. So people will sit there and go, "Oh, well, we've been noticing this thing," and you find out they have a new baby. The rocking chair is moving in the baby's room. And that's their big issue. And it's like, well, that's because grandma or great grandma is coming to be with the new baby.
Right.
And so I've had clients that are like, "Oh, well, I have this ghost. It's like it's my twin brother." And I'm like, "But that's a good thing. He's not haunting you. He's hanging out with you and just being with you." And so acknowledge him and be like, "Yay, he's around me."
Right.
And then there are people that don't go through the life review process and, are earthbound and are stuck here. And those are the people that you find in the active hauntings and the really funky
Yeah.
active hauntings.
Have you seen the movie Go what is it? Yeah, I think what is it? A Ghost Story or whatever with Casey Affleck? I think it came out in 2016 or 17.
No, I don't think
Basically,
so.
you know who Casey Affleck is, right? That's Ben Affleck's brother. Um,
Okay.
he's kind of a more stoic character, different than like Ben Affleck, in a way. But like the thing that blew my mind about this movie was I actually cried watching it, and it was because yeah, I know it was the guy's in a sheet ghost costume. So, he it goes through like at the beginning, he gets this house, and he's with his lady, and he dies tragically. And it's like he goes back to this place and he's just this sheet ghost costume. And it's just, I don't know if it's, I'm a musician as well. So the music really plays to my heart. But it's just a tragic story of him sticking around and watching her life go by and watching all the things happen without him. And he's pecking at this door and he's trying to like get to this note that's in, man, it's just so sad. And I think to myself, like, what if that was the existence? What if somebody decided to not go through the follow the light or whatever, go through the life review, and they were just stuck there, and they wanted to stay because they wanted to be around their family members and see how things are going. I mean, how long would they stay there until somebody helps them cross over? Could it be forever? What do you think on that?
So I think there are some people, and you see this like with married couples where one of the partners passes and they make the choice to stick around and wait for their mate to
Mhm.
go. You know what I mean? But I feel like for those people, there's a conscious decision of this is what I'm going to do. And when they complete their task, kind of like the movie goes, Patrick Swayze needed to solve the mystery, and then he moved on. Um, I think your visual of the spirit that just like clings on and doesn't move is just really, that is a very sad story. But my experience is that they're not there
Yeah.
all the time, which says to me that they go somewhere else. Where that is, I don't know, and then come around. I mean, I think anyone that's done any ghost hunting have gone into places that are supposedly very actively haunted from, reports, and you go in and you're not getting anything. And not to dismiss that, you know, there was something going on, but you know, sometimes they just go somewhere and you just can't detect.
Yeah. Well, I think the saddest part of the movie to me was when he was peering over at another house and there was another sheet ghost, and they're kind of like they're kind of like communicating in like a telepathy type way, I guess. And I think it goes along the lines of he asks the other ghosts like, why are they here? And they say, I don't know. And I just thought, man, it's such a poetic kind of like answer, you know what I mean? Like they have no idea why they're there. They're just there, stuck there. And it was just I really do invite you to watch it. I know it sounds ridiculous because of the sheet ghost thing, but like it's a really sweet movie. In terms of just like I don't know if you like movies that kind of like pull emotion out of you. You go,
Mhm.
I don't mind sitting down and having a cry to a movie or something, maybe that makes me less of a man or all my man points get knocked down, but I'm good with that. Who knew we were going to go that we're to this point together? But let's get back to the entities portion. One thing I want to ask you about entities and attachments is what percentage do you think could be negative? I know that TV really likes to romanticize that everything's a demon, right? And so everyone just considers every haunting to be a negative, when it comes to an entity. Are do you think that there's a high percentage of demonic activity, or do you think that's pretty low?
Okay, that was kind of a big chunk. Okay, so if it's an attached entity, so that they're actually clinging to you and trying to control and manipulate your thoughts, and they're entering your auric field, they're always nasty.
Hmm.
You know, I have categories. There's like the mean guy who didn't cross over because they were just mean and yucky throughout their life, and those are the most common. But I have interacted with what I call alien entities
Hmm.
that do not take on human corporeal form. I have interacted with, and this is even, those are pretty rare. And then what I would actually call a demon, they're really mean and they're really nasty. And I can usually interact with like the regular entities just fine and help them move along, whatever. But when they like move past a certain point, um, it takes a certain kind of person, and definitely more of an exorcist person who is not ever going to back down to them to deal with them. But the percent of those kind of spirits, I mean, I've worked with people with entities and attachments for years, and I would say I've experienced three in my practice. So not on an investigation. I mean, people come to me because of that.
Yeah.
Three. And I've only ever had one. This is funny. So I'm working with this lady and she's complaining, and she's got this entity, and it was pretty obvious to me. And but it was a nasty. It was what I put into my little like super nasty demon category, and I'm referring. And so I referred to this friend of mine who apparently didn't call her in the timely manner that she wanted. And I get this phone call. So this is this scared little old lady, scared. And she's like, oh, well, I don't know. Blah, blah, blah. And I get this call, and it's like, your friend never called me. And I'm like, okay. I'm like, okay, well, I'm going to give him a call and kind of put a fire under his butt. And so I call my friend and I'm like, okay, so and so's entity just called me. I mean, I've never had one do that. Usually, you try to help the person and the entity like tries to disappear. They don't want to come to the forefront. So
Hmm.
that was different.
Yeah, definitely. Well, do you think that not to get too religious. I try not to get too religious. I show my cards sometimes. I tell people what I believe in this and that, but it's irrelevant to the situation. I only want to bring it up for this. Do you think that with this type of thing, like, because like the Bible, for example, the Bible talks about how, especially like in James, I believe, it talks about how we can't speak to the dead, and all that stuff. And so it always makes me wonder, like, how then why would they say that, and why would people tap into being able to talk to the dead or see the dead? Do you have an answer to that?
Because it's dogma.
Yeah. Well, and that's, I'm not bringing it up to, like, to have you be like, oh, the Bible is malarkey, or what I believe is right and wrong. I'm just curious as to why that would come through in that, because like me, as a believer in, later in life too, like the Bible and all that, I'm happy talking to anybody about it, but not pushing it on them. You know what I mean? Like,
Mhm,
it pushed
mhm.
me away from it from my whole life. So I can have these discussions, but I'm kind of strange, right? I'm super into the paranormal. I do things different, and I mean, I kind of do them my way. And if it's wrong, I mean, that sucks. But that's how I do my religion. But I look at it like this. I think that there's a big picture that's obviously being missed, right? Uh,
Mhm.
especially by the religious, superstitious, and all that, who just kind of go by, like you said, the dogma of it all and everything else. And I think that they're missing the massive picture, that we live in a universe, a supernatural universe, that we obviously don't understand. We can possibly understand,
Exactly.
but people
You
like you
know,
are fascinating because you do tap into it, right?
but if the concept of ghosts or communicating with ghosts or interacting with non-corporeal beings was just so not true and out there,
Mhm.
then the Catholic Church wouldn't have exorcists, you
Right.
know, and it doesn't help that they've like kept it this big secret. It's like, okay, so there's no ghost, but oh well, in case you have one, we got these guys over here and stop it, ghost.
I know. Look at that, man. We're conjuring something up today, aren't we? That's wild. Does it do this a lot?
I
Are you just perched?
no, this is the first time it's done this.
Man, this is wild.
It's doing it just for you, so you definitely need to just leave that in there. It's like, stop moving it.
As long as it's not moving my computer, my computer's pretty big. So if that thing's flailing around, I know I got something going on here.
Well, I mean, this is just a camera sitting on the top of my laptop
Yeah,
because the laptop camera, it worked good at first, but then it became like just one giant blur. It's
right.
like, mhm.
So let's talk about you've written quite a few books. I mean, you're on this is your seventh book now.
Seventh book.
I mean, and that's an accomplishment in itself. I mean, I always wanted to be an author, but never pulled the plug because I didn't understand like the how to get in touch with publishing, but it's so much easier now with the Amazon age and all that. But tell me more about the books that you've written, and more importantly, the book that you're promoting right now.
Okay. So I really have interest in a lot of different areas, and I just usually where they start is I have a question.
Hmm.
There's something that I want to know about, and then I end up taking this deep dive. And if there seems like there's stuff, then I just keep diving, and then it turns into a book. So I have two books that talk about subtle energy, about the aura and the chakras and energy movement like that. I have, I'll say, two books that really focus on um, ancient mysteries, more like ancient alien type stuff.
Hmm.
Um, I have one book called Dark Angels, which is about ghost spirits and attached entities. Um, and then my last book was called The Dysfunctional Dance of the Empath and Narcissist, which talks about the dynamics between an empath or
This is so wild, isn't it?
it is wild, and a narcissistic personality. And then the new one, and I'm gonna like grab it because this is video,
Yes.
is called Dang, It Was Me All Along, which looks at, so the question that I went into this book with is what do I need to do in order to be happy and to feel contentment and inner peace, because it seemed extremely fleeting to me.
Hmm.
And and I my whole life I had been challenged with negative thinking. and I didn't want to do it anymore. And so that's that was the deep dive, and I discovered early on that it all could be changed. And you could like go from being like a Debbie Downer, which I never really was a Debbie Downer, but to having a life where you are content. And that was like my base level. If I can just be content, I'm good. Happy is a step up. Content, I'm okay. And once I discovered that it was something you could change, I was all about it.
Yeah.
And I thought it would be hard, but it was really a very simple process. And actually, I was doing an interview the other day, and the woman likened it to dieting. Okay, so dieting is not that hard. You just have to do it.
Yep. Absolutely.
And that's like not with any physical exercise. It's just you have to do it and you have to be consistent and have that become part of your life, so you're not changing, you're making it be a lifestyle thing. And this is how I interact with food. But now you're changing to this is how I interact with other people and the world around me.
Yeah. Well, and there's a lot of we tend to, it's the old thing that like my parents taught me at one point. If you draw a circle, right, a big circle, and then you put that little point in the middle, and you can say that that little point is you, right? But that giant circle around is all everybody and everything around you, and all of that is are things that you can't control, right? You're just that little speck,
Hmm.
and so only you can control yourself. So I mean, how does one get in that mindset without giving away the secret sauce of the book? Because I want people to get the book. How does one get into
Well, I
that?
mean, there's a lot of factors, but I'm just going to make it, very simplistic.
Yeah.
It has become by becoming aware of what is going on inside. There are so many of us that live on autopilot. So something happens, we have a knee jerk response to the situation. And then we either have like negative thinking about it or, we're emotionally upset, but that is the net result of a situation. And we will do the same things over and over again. It's kind of like a giant computer virus that's embedded and programmed into us. So if you become more aware of what's going on, it's kind of like, okay, I'm really upset right now. Well, what happened? Oh, well, I was just talking to this person and they said these things, and if I think about it, when I have other situations that are similar, I have the same kind of reaction.
Mhm.
And so by starting to identify cause and effect, you can then take the next step and go, okay, so what can I do to change that? What can I do to modify my response to the situation? So I don't have no issue with like sharing myself, so even though I can talk a lot and I can talk good, I used to be really shy. And so when there's something that happens and it's somebody that's close to me, I tend to zip my lips and I won't say anything. And so I would just sit and think about it and think about it and think about it and think about it until I got to the place that I could let it go or move on and recover mentally and emotionally. Um, but it gets old, finally, it's gotten old. And it's like, okay, so for me to not feel bad or for me to not be in this place for a long time, what do I need to do? And the answer always was, you need to communicate. I'm like, shit.
The worst part, right? Who wants to communicate?
Like, no, I don't want to. I don't want to. Even though, but it took a long time to get to that place to go, well, if you talk about it, then it resolves the situation and you're not spending a week thinking about the whole scenario.
Yeah.
You can cut it down to a couple of hours, if that.
Right.
And so everybody has their little demons, and it's figuring out, what do I need to do so I don't experience this anymore? And sometimes you have to make hard decisions. Sometimes you have to end a relationship, or, do things that are challenging.
Yeah.
I mean, and I joke around in the book. It's like, okay, but the first time you do it, it might be a white knuckle situation. But if you keep doing it and practicing it, then it becomes less and less till it becomes a natural and comfortable response. You're rewriting that program inside of yourself, that instead of locking up, you're actually making the healthy choice,
Yeah.
even though that choice might be scary as hell.
Well, and I wish I could go back to my younger self. Like I used to think it was such a cliche to when people would say like the older you get, the smarter you become and the more wise you become. I thought that was just like a way for old people to kind of control us, and tell us that they're wise. But the thing is it really is true. Like the older I get, I'm 41 now, almost 42. I know that's not super old, but it is getting older and I am getting wiser to situations like where before I would blow a gasket on somebody or I would bottle something up for so long that I would just act a fool and be completely out of control of the situation because I couldn't control myself, right? But now I
Hmm.
as much. And that's half the battle, but it's a hard battle. It really is. The battle within the mind is such a hard thing. And it really is just a person trying to control their own thoughts and trying to settle down, isn't it?
It was surprise. There are some, which are in the book, some very simple tools that you can use that make it easier, but it's like walking away from that piece of chocolate cake. You have to sit there and do it.
Mhm.
And there are many people that have great tools. And I mean, this was my situation. I have a lot of tools to work with, to ground and meditate and do this and do that. But what many people tend to do is they pull them out of the drawer when they're really upset, and they dust them off, and then they wonder why they don't work.
Yeah.
Versus using those tools every day, on days that you feel good, on days that you feel medium, and just practicing, and the practice part is, it didn't even take 5 minutes.
Yeah.
Doing a few rounds of breathing doesn't take any time. But if you can do a few rounds of breathing and get your parasympathetic nervous system in line with it, I mean, I think everybody can relate to something's going on and you just stop and you close your eyes and you take a nice deep breath and you can feel your body relax. And so if you practice that and you're in a uncomfortable situation and you close your eyes and you take that deep breath, your body will naturally respond with that relaxation response. Versus you pulled it out of the drawer and you're going, oh, wait, I'm breathing. Why isn't it working? Why isn't it working?
Well, according to 90s sitcoms, I remember an episode of Family Matters, for example. Steve Urkel was so annoying and everything, right? I don't know. You remember that show?
I do.
Well, Carl, the dad, he was always annoyed by Steve, but he was having heart problems. And I remember the one episode in particular, they told him when you're having issues, to calm yourself down, say 3, 2, 1, 1, 2, 3. What the heck is bothering me? And so
I never heard that.
Carl got so pissed at Steve one episode that he was saying it over and over again to the point where he just got pissed that he was saying it. So he ended up like, trying to strangle Steve and chase him around. I always think about that and it kind of like oddly just that type of thought could calm me down just laughing about it, right? If you think
Mhm.
how ridiculous that notion is, but there
But
really is.
it's actually great.
Yeah.
If you sit there, so one of the things that I talk about in the book is, like tapping, which regardless, and I tell people it's like, if you find yourself tapping really fast, or if you find yourself breathing really fast and you're not noticing changes, then you need to slow it down. So it sounds like his dad was going 1, 2, 3, 3, 2, 1, and doing it really super fast,
Yeah.
where if he slowed it down and went 1, 2, 3, he probably would have gotten the relaxation response versus the upset.
Yeah. I think they probably had that idea for Carl on that show, but he had just kind of had it with Urkel, neighbor or whatever. So, well, I hate to do this to you, but I need to pause for sponsors now. So,
Okay.
we'll just have a brief pause and then we'll be back on the show.
Hey there, grooming gurus. We've got something wild for you today.
That's right, folks. Get ready to tame the untamed with products that redefine the beard game. Introducing the Elegant Sasquatch Grooming Company.
Elegant Sasquatch, that sounds like a contradiction, doesn't it?
Well, grooming should be an adventure, my friend, and with these products, you'll embark on a journey to the grooming wilderness.
So, what makes the Elegant Sasquatch so unique?
It's all about taking your beard from beastly to beautifully wild. Picture this, you wake up and your beard looks like it just got back from a spa day. That's the magic of their high end beard balms.
Spa day for the beard? Sign me up. And let's not forget their beard butters and oils. It's like giving your beard a tropical vacation. I'm talking about a beach party for your facial hair.
A beach party for the beard. This company's got the best marketing ever.
Oh, but we're not done yet, folks. The Elegant Sasquatch Grooming Company also has beard washes that make shower time a majestic experience.
Showering with Sasquatch, that sounds like a reality show.
It does, but seriously, listeners, if you want to sophisticate your outer beast, head over to elegantsasquatchco.etsy.com and use the code SUPERSHOW at checkout for an exclusive discount of 20% off.
You can also find them on Facebook and Instagram. Check them out, like them, and while you're at it, tell them the Super Show sent you.
All right, we're back, everybody. I want to thank my sponsors once again, with Roots Music Shop here in Lincoln, Nebraska, also Sly Ink Tattoo, and of course, the Elegant Sasquatch. So I've told you guys for so many times, if you bearded Sasquatch gentlemen running through the woods need to be smelling nice for those ladies, get yourself some product from these guys and tell them Cain sent you. So I'm back with an author. I'm back with the doctor, Dr. Rita Louise, and we've been talking about. I did say your last name correct, right?
Correct.
Okay, thank goodness. I butcher a lot of names, so I just want to make sure. Feel free to yell at me whenever you'd like. But we've been talking about ghosts, entities, books. We've dove into family matters and 90s sitcoms, and now I want to kind of get weird with you, as if we haven't already, right?
Yay. I tell my clients, they're like, well, this is really weird. I'm like, girl, you have called the land of the weird.
Yeah.
So, but every so often they will like throw something at me and I'm like, okay, that is really
It's not going to get too wild. I used to ask a bunch of zany, stupid questions, but now I kind of have a more tactful approach. So, one thing I wanted to talk to you about was with aliens, right? If you want to dive into aliens, I would love to. There's a lot of stuff going around right now. The government's coming out and talking about these UAPs. They ditched the UFO word, or whatever acronym, whatever you want to say, and changed it to UAP. But now that we have aliens out there and we know that they're telling us they exist, it seems like nobody cares. Like all of a sudden there's this big buildup. Why doesn't it? Why is it? Is it like a tactic to distract us? Why do people not care about aliens right now?
And actually, I just had this conversation, I think yesterday or the day before. No, it was yesterday. So one, when the information like comes out in the media, there's so much going on the planet right now. I remember, I mean, this was during COVID, there was the volcano went off in Iceland, so there's all this crazy going on. I'm like, oh, and a volcano. And it just like went by where that would have been like front and center news for a long time. And so the whole UFO thing is it's been around for a long time. And so I think that people that are going to believe in UFOs, like people that believe in ghosts, already believe in aliens. And so for them to say, oh, yeah, that's true, I don't know that it's really going to move the needle at all, other than to validate, what people have been talking about and being told that they were crazy for years.
What seems like we care more about Taylor Swift going to a Kansas City Chiefs game than we do about aliens. Like, let's get real here. Like, what's more, who cares if she's at the game? Like, that's great, but let's move on to the fact that there are the Pentagon is coming out and these pilots are saying, yes, we've seen them. We've been seeing them for years. We see them all the time. I think a lot of it is probably military, right? That they don't want to
Mhm.
talk about. A lot of it is a prototype. Like there's that jetpack one that they have, the jellyfish one. I'm pretty sure that that's probably just like a military prototype, right? That's what it looks like to me, where guys like flying around like the Rocketeer or something.
Well, I mean, but there have been reports from credible military guys, from the 70s, and the 80s, that, if it wasn't for alternative UFO people to bring forward, we would never even know about it.
Yeah.
And it bothers me on a personal level that they would just go, no, 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 deny, 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 and then one day turn around and go, oh yeah, yeah, that was a real report. It's
Exactly.
like, okay, so what else are you lying about,
Oh,
dudes?
and then there's the thing I've been blabbing about now for a while since it happened was the Miami Mall thing. Have you seen that? Where the alien was there's like alien beings that must support, came out of a portal or something and chase people.
I heard about that, but I was kind of was looking for video footage, and there was only the police cars running around. And then I heard that, the guy just made it up, or and I'm not sure really what to make of it. Although there were a lot of police presence there
There was.
for a not really important skirmish.
Yeah, exactly. Like if it was just kids fighting, like they said, and like fireworks going off, don't you think they just send a couple like, big donut filled cops there to kind of like chase them off? But they had like 50 cop cars and like helicopters flying above. Like
Yeah,
it's
it was crazy.
down. Yeah. So who knows? It looked to me like a Men in Black situation, like guys in black suits showing up, flashing people's.
Uh-huh.
We'll see. I've been reaching out to different people on like TikTok and trying to get people who are claiming to be eyewitnesses to come on the show, and of course they're like, "Oh yeah, we'll come on the show if you pay us set amount of dollars," and I'm like, "Well,
No.
it's not gonna happen because it's like unless they were like a super, I wouldn't even do it then. But let's just say for the sake of saying it, I guess if they were a super credible source that everyone knew, that would be something. But like just some guy claiming to be there, like how do I know he was actually there, right?
Well, and these days where everyone has their phone and there's video of freaking everything, why is there no footage?
Yeah.
Or even people going, with their phone, and you don't really see anything, and them going, oh my God, what was that? Like that the anomaly happened and they didn't get their phone out in time. There's not even that kind of footage. Now, whether it was all suppressed,
I don't know.
don't know.
I mean, if I had a phone and I saw an alien entity coming at me, I'd probably throw it at it and try to run, like so. So my
No, you're a ghost hunter. You would be like, hey, wait,
not in that
let me
if
get
it was
some
like a nine,
EVPs.
if it was a 9 foot tall entity though, like I'll call it an entity, but an alien. I mean, I'd be scared out of my mind. I'd be shooting pee down my leg. I'd be hiding, but I can't see somebody should have their phone out, right? Everybody's got a phone recording everything.
And see, that's so weird. So people that know me, I pitch myself as like I'm afraid of ghosts, even though like I'll go in haunted houses and find the ghosts and whatever, but like don't have the weird noises and don't make me go into some spooky place and not turn the light on,
Yeah.
or make me go into a room by myself. Like that isn't ever happening. But if I was at the
Look at that. We start
mall,
talking about ghosts again and bam.
I know. But if I was at the mall and there was some portal that opened up and an alien entity walked in, I would be like, hey, that's pretty cool, because I don't think that it would bother me,
Yeah.
because I've seen lots of weird stuff like that.
Well, yeah, you
Lots.
see it different than us. You
Just
definitely
don't make loud noises.
don't make loud noises. That's the thing. What if they are like those types? Like, I think that we're just desensitized to all of it. Like the movies have done exactly what we wanted them to do, right? They've prepared us for like the worst, like say like horrible horror movies. Like I'll bet I could see an awful accident, and of course I would feel terrible for the people involved. But I'm being honest, like I'll bet at first it'd be like watching a movie and I would just be desensitized, like feel nothing at first, right? And isn't that
Mhm.
like that's the type of culture we live in now?
Sadly.
Yeah.
Sadly.
Well, I'm gonna ask you to I maybe you'll say no. I want you to participate in a little experiment. I'm not putting you to the test. I'm gonna put you to the test of maybe one of the most famous psychic tools in all the land. Are you ready?
Okay.
Magic 8 ball. Okay.
I had a magic 8 ball. I
So
love my magic 8 ball.
I'm not gonna put where I'm gonna ask some questions if you're and this is by no means proving the validity of this or that, other than I just want to see what the magic 8 ball says and what you say. Are you willing to do that?
Sure.
So my first question is this, and I got to get a good shake on this thing. I got it at a garage sale for like 10 cents. I want to know with the upcoming election, not to get political, but I want to know will Biden win again or will Trump win? Okay, that's what I'm going to ask. So I want to get your opinion on it, and then I'm going to ask the Magic 8 ball to tell me.
Man, that's like really not a yes or no question.
Well, yeah,
Okay, but
well, the question will
this
be
is my
this.
take. So I'm going to say Trump, because I don't know, even if they super cheated, they could get enough votes.
Yeah.
There's a lot of things at play in here, like whether Biden actually is going to be who he runs against. You know, there's a lot of things at play.
So let's give it a yes or no. Yeah, you're absolutely right.
I'll just say yes.
To Trump getting elected.
Correct.
Okay, here we go. I'm gonna check this. Will Donald Trump be elected? It says
Uncertain.
yep.
Not,
Oh, it says it is certain. Wow, look at that.
all righty.
There we go. Let's do a couple other ones. What's another question I can ask you?
I don't know.
Let's see. What else? Okay, we got I don't know if you watch football. I mean, you live in Texas.
I do watch football.
Are you a fan of like college, pro?
Pro football. I used to actually do psychic readings on football, and I was okay. I wasn't great.
Well, good.
So
Then
sure, ask me a football question.
I'm a 49ers fan, and I want to know, are the 49ers going to win the Super Bowl?
Well, I just saw a thing where they had an ad for the 49ers and the Ravens, and the halftime show. So and so and so and so is going to show up for the halftime show, but they haven't finished the playoff games. So I'm like, how did that happen? Okay, so you want to know if the 49ers, so let's see it's the Lions and Kansas City and the Ravens.
Lions, Ravens, 49ers, and the Chiefs are still in it.
So from that league, I think San Francisco is going to get into it.
Okay, here we go.
And that means I can wear my 49er sweatshirt and my dog can wear his 49er sweatshirt, and we can like have the whole 49er ensemble going.
Yes, absolutely. So will the 49ers win the Super Bowl? You're saying yes with that league of
Sure.
It says it is decidedly so. It looks like we're
So I have to tell you, so I had a magic, so I used to do a lot of wellness expos, conferences or whatever, and I wanted to have a magic 8 ball to have on my table. And so I would go to Target or whatever, and I'd go to the toy department and I would pick up an 8 ball and go, do you want to come home with me? And I would always get no. And I pick up another one, no. That went on for like a year of whenever I'd go, I'd cruise the toy aisle, do it. Finally I had one that said that I could go home, like, yes, like, can I go home with you? And it said yes. And so that's the one I bought. And I would just leave it on my table, and people were like, well, can you tell me something? And I'm like, well, ask a question. And then I'd pick up the magic 8 ball and I'd be like,
Mine's probably had it with me because, as you saw, I try to give it these long-winded questions that aren't yes and no. So it's like, come on, buddy. Like, can we get a little bit of a? It's just like when I try to talk to ghosts at these investigations, I get these long-winded questions, and I that's what this show should be called. It's long-winded questions. I apologize to you as the guest because I always say, like, I'm going to ask you one question, and then I give you like 5 questions in the long-winded question that I do. So, well, I'm not going to put you. I think that was good enough for me. Just knowing that. Sorry, Chris, with the Elegant Sasquatch. The Lions aren't doing it this year. Better luck
oh,
next.
I'm totally not getting the Lions. Where I have the question is Kansas City or the Ravens.
Yeah.
Okay, but the Ravens have been doing really good this year, and Kansas City, they got the whole curse going on right now. So
It's good.
the Kelso curse.
Right. And Taylor Swift's been ruining it for him. She's going to end up being like the ultimate curse for that whole thing. Once they break up, Kansas City will never win another championship again. She'll put on some witch curse and it'll be over with.
And then write a song about it.
Right. Like, yeah, a song about it and destroy the Kelso brothers. They must be destroyed. Well, I want to allow you now to promote whatever you want. This is we're getting close to the end of the show. I know we need to wipe tears from our eyes. Hopefully we get to talk to each other again sometime, but
Okay.
feel free to promote anything you want to promote right now.
So if people want to schedule a private consultation with me, whether it's to talk about your health, relationships, career, whatever. I'm not a medium. I don't talk to dead people, so don't call me about that. They can go to my webpage, soulhealer.com. That's soulhealer.com. And there's a ton of articles. You can purchase my books from there. There's video. There's just a lot of information worth perusing. And all of my books are available on Amazon.com, Barnes & Noble, all those regular distributors. And something I would like to invite all of your listeners to, on Thursday night, I do a live stream. It's Thursday night live with Dr. Rita Louise. And they are invited to join in the chat, and they can ask questions and get free on-air readings.
Awesome.
Free.
I'm going to have to pop in one of these days, and just kind of check it out. I do a show right now. I produce a show with another intuitive named Heather. And so I'm extremely interested in in all of this. I know for a fact, because of some of the things she's told me, that, she's 1,000% tapped into it. So I'll buy into this 1,000,000,000%. There's whatever the heck you guys are tapping into. I wish I was tapping into that. She tells me that I can, that everybody can, but
everybody can.
You're telling me that too, but man, I don't know about this crazy mind of mine,
But it's just really about being aware. Okay, so I'm going to leave you with this little tool, and again, it's about the awareness. So you can think back in the past, but you can also carry this forward. So have there been situations where you had a thought in the morning and then in the afternoon you wished you listened to yourself, so you got up and you said, oh, I should take a sweater, but you didn't, now you're freezing, or an umbrella or whatever. So that is a psychic experience. You received the information and then you chose to not listen to yourself. And so it comes through in the same way. And so even just by paying attention to those weird thoughts that come in and looking for validation for it, eventually you will start actually just listening to it and paying attention to it and going, oh, okay.
Well, there you have it, everybody. You are a super guest. You're super guest status. So I want to give you another round of applause. I think you did a great job, and I really hope to have you back so we can talk more weird stuff together.
Okay.
I appreciate you so much, and hopefully I can kind of, I don't know, dive into a little bit more of maybe some of these other investigations that I've done and just pick your brain. So thank you so much, to, Dr. Rita Louise, and everybody. Go out and get those books, and thank you again.
Thank you. Bye.
Nebraska. Here is your host, Cain Stevens.